FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and the action in the metals has been, well, it's caught the experts by surprise. Now, I don't know who these experts are, and I don't really trust experts, and whether you should trust them or not is another question. But we've seen remarkable resiliency, relative strength, and what appears to be the beginning of a new bull market in precious metals, starting in gold and probably will spread to others. You've already seen palladium take off to the moon, but there's not many palladium deposits on the planet. Hard for you to participate in that unless you buy the metal itself, which is also difficult to get. But one thing is for certain, resource stocks, mining stocks, exploration, that's where, assuming that this bull market has legs and continues onward, that's where your opportunities are going to be. You've heard from our sponsor before, Auryn Resources. Ivan Bebek is with us now. Ivan, great to have you back on. I mean, you got to be even more excited now that you've seen the price of gold go pop over 1,400.
Absolutely. A pleasure to be back. And I think it took us all by surprise. 6-year high, I believe, was reached. And living this market through 2 companies. We started a company in 2011 that went through the bear market. We fortunately sold it at a great price and did really well with shareholders. But our peers and the rest of the market didn't perform that way. And it's been a really tough market to raise money for a lot of people, and most importantly for investors to see returns on their investments. I think when gold runs the way it has and you break into new highs, and as you've said, you see a major resiliency in the share and the gold price, and it's maintaining, and other commodities are starting to pick up. Welcome back to the start of the next bull market. No questions asked. I think the biggest question I get is this the start or not? And my immediate response was, this is, if it's not the start, it's a very big heads up of what's to come. A lot of people react when gold moves, but people like myself and my colleagues, we react through way before it moves. So the move is significant. I'd say this is most certainly the start of a bull. If you listen to, U.S. politics or, U.S. Fed Department and what's coming for the U.S. dollar, and you hear mentions of the gold standard coming back, it's not as I guess fake news, I'll use the term, as it was in the past. People are starting to believe that there is going to be a softening of the dollar. They are looking at inflation. There's a lot of factors that are finally starting to unwind. I like this point of the market a lot because it's the most opportune time to take positions early, because the easiest move or the most profitable move for any investment is in the first leg of a bull market coming back, which is what I think we're entering now.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think the fundamentals for the past, I guess we're going back to 2011, the fundamentals for the metals have been there, but cyclically, the cycle has not been there. So it's just a case where, you got to have good fundamentals, but if the cycle is going against you, it's really hard to push the boulder up the hill. But then eventually the cycle turns. I think we're in that position now. To me, the biggest affirmation of that, or validation, is the fact we were in a 6-year sideways channel in gold prices where they didn't deviate more than $150. They just stayed right there. And then you had a narrowing of that channel over the past 2-3 years. And then it broke through the resistance level, that 1350 mark approximately. There's debate over what the resistance was, but it broke through it with such authority and intensity, and then broke through 1400 in the blink of an eye. And then the resistance points have now become support. And according to Peter Hugg of Kitco, and I told him I wouldn't call him on it, but I will. He thinks if it breaks 1420, there's no resistance up above, and it could hit 1550 this year.
I'd say all bets are on for sure that gold goes through 1500 this year. Seasonally, we should have a soft August, but an incredibly robust September, October. That would be the time that I would anticipate it. I agree with Peter that if you can, stay above and break through 1420, maybe 1450 is the main number that I'm looking to kind of break through and stay above. But, it's all within the same price as you've said. And, I think you have to remind yourself two things. is what really happens on share price returns in the gold sector when gold reacts the way it does. And what you don't get with gold is you don't get a big run up or a long run up. You get an overnight reaction like we saw, gold stocks. And I was trading some of them about a month ago, companies like Bebek or Alamos Gold. Bebek went from Canadian prices from $15.75 to $22 in 3 days. Mm-hmm. And seeing that kind of return with real money in those kind of, big blue chip type of mining companies is spectacular. But had I not bought it a month prior, even though I didn't get the perfect entry price, I would have totally missed it. So with the gold market, you have to be long if you believe that it's going to be improving. If you're a generalist and you don't, follow gold that closely, you're not a gold specialist, and you don't want to listen to these experts, think about the US dollar, think about the US debt, think about the election coming up, and think about where the economy is or it isn't. And, the tell signs are everywhere that we're headed towards, in a macro level, a very robust gold environment again. These are long cycles that when they start, they continue for some time. And, $1,500 gold would be exciting for us. Our share prices would do extremely well. However, it's nothing compared to what happens at $1,900 gold and what we saw in 2011. And we had a company that was at probably around $3 or $4 when gold was around $1,500 an ounce. And once it hit 1,900, we were over $9 per share. And so we were finding a mine, fine, but at the same time, that's the valuation change. And, here's one major factor, and it'll lead into some stuff we'll talk about today, is one major factor is discovery and finding these mines. 50 years before today, you could find these major mines, and now they are not being found anymore. And so the value of finding a mine is going to go back to what used to happen in the 90s, 80s, 90s, where any kind of a discovery would see a stock go from $1 to $20 a share, or $30 a share. And that's just going to be because of the scarcity of big discoveries that don't get found. And valuations are going to be big. The metal is worth a lot more than it used to be, and the ability to find it is much harder. And that's really what set the second stage, or the stage of exploration companies. It's not going to be a lot of us that do it, but those of us who do will make incredible returns for investors.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. Really, it's been a long time in coming, and the majors are. I wouldn't say that they're desperate now, but they're approaching the point of desperation because their reserves are getting depleted, and they don't have really their own in-house exploration any longer, because that was one of the casualties of cutting back in the new, sub $1,200, sub $1,300 gold price. They cut back, they sold off assets, all these things, and now they're going to be scrambling. And like you said, there's not a lot of options for them to turn to actually dramatically increase their reserves.
Well, on the simple financial note, we've spent $100 million in the last 4 years looking for the world's biggest, or one of the top biggest, discoveries. And we're now on the forefront of possibly two of them, one copper, one gold. But we're aware of majors, some of the biggest mining companies in the world that have spent $100 million as well in the same time period, maybe last 6 years, in places we've been looking, and they haven't even come close to what we've got onto. So there's money being spent, not to the capacity of a bull market, but the people who are spending it are the most capable people to spend it. The one thing you don't get in a bear market or a sideways market, you don't get a lot of wildcat drilling, which is kind of random, and people fluking onto deposits, which is a big way that these things can be made and found, right? So in terms of what we do get here is we get a market with the smartest people, arguably, out there looking for the real estate to find these mines, not finding them. You get the crunch of future demand on, especially copper. You think about climate change and a greener planet. That's all copper. I mean, it's the most valuable metal in my mind on the planet, because eventually there's going to be nothing, barely any of it left, and it's going to trade at multi-dollars per pound. And, people say, fine, but people switch to silver for a conductor or something else. You can switch to whatever you want, but there's not going to be the volume of that metal either, to satisfy the demand that comes from copper. You can also argue that there's a lot of low-grade copper mines on the planet. And, as far as that goes, there's nothing that in terms of, that would make sense to me, because if copper spikes and these mines come into production, you're talking $4 or $5 billion capexes Mm-hmm. And do you want to finance that on a volatile market, which just spiked? It'd be hard to finance. So I think, let's resume to what the real challenge is here. Let's go find high quality, massive mines, the kind that we dream about as investors that make money, but the kind that majors dream about for 30, 40, 50 years of production to satisfy the demand they have in the world market.
Yeah. It's a big treasure hunt, and you're definitely well poised. And you got some news on a couple of the projects on Sombrero and on Committee Bay. What's happening there?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Financial Survival Network is brought to you today by Auryn Resources, a junior exploration company with the appetite of a major. It's hot on the trail of the next globally significant discovery, creating enormous potential upside for you, the shareholder. Auryn is one of the most aggressive exploration companies pursuing high-grade, scalable gold and copper deposits, and has a premier 7-project portfolio, including its 2 flagships, Committee Bay in the Arctic and Sombrero in Peru. Auryn's unparalleled technical team and highly experienced management has a history of success in advancing and monetizing exploration assets. No wonder Auryn's been called one of the best in the junior exploration sector. Auryn trades on the TSX and the NYSE under AUG. To learn more, go to aurynresources.com. That's AURYN resources.com.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Yeah, the news on Sombrero has been spectacular. I mean, this is the uncovering of potentially the world's biggest copper gold, system or district. Not one deposit. We think we could find multiple deposits on this property. We had some incredible surface results followed up by some drill holes that somebody else drilled near some of our targets, which really gave us a real good perspective on what could be there. It made sense out of everything we did on surface to date. And now we're just waiting on drill permits and more access to more targets. The one theme that I want everyone to take from us in Sombrero is because there's a lot of cover, and it's thin cover, like, a volcano erupts and it covers rocks with ashes. You can't see the rocks you want to explore. Because there's a lot of cover, you want to look at what else could be here besides what we're finding that's exposed. And there's going to be a theme of a lot of new things, a lot of new major targets adding to what's already substantial. So it's just something that's kind of, whale by the tail in terms of massive discovery potential just keeps going up and new things are being found. In the next few weeks, we're going to get access to a second major portion of our property. This is community access that we've been working towards for some time. And this will be, arguably one of the most robust targets in terms of grade and in terms of mineralization of both gold and copper that we will include in our drill plan that we're looking to permit by the end of this year or early next year at the latest. So a lot of excitement to come out of Sombrero. I'd like to say to people that the excitement that got us to our current market cap of about 165 million US, it's going to repeat itself with this additional access. With the confidence there is based off of what we've seen on surface to date. And you look at our presentation, our NEOC target, you'll see multi% copper, up to 9% copper and 5 grams gold historically on this target. And, there's so much of it on this next target. So there'll be a lot of excitement coming out of Peru. Committee Bay, we just announced we've started drilling our 5th year on this major gold belt, 300 kilometers long or 220 miles long. And it's in the Arctic. It's an extremely tough place to go work, but the kind of mines or the kind of deposits you can find here are world class. And you get it right and you could be on to a 10 in a few mines, 10 to 20 million ounce kind of discoveries. And for us, this is an area, again, same theme. There's a lot of cover. There's dirt on top of the rocks, and there was glaciers historically over top of the dirt. So you're trying to find these deposits between, 5 and 20 meters underneath this dirt. It's blind drilling for the most part. And what we did there was we brought in machine learning, artificial intelligence. We worked with a company that CompuGeo Inc. that has seen, some capital come from HPX Mining, which is famous known from Robert Friedland's company. So it's one of the best AI platforms, or if not the best, that we think globally. Using it as a tool to go target this belt with all these hidden targets is a really, hair-raising experience in the back of your neck, because if that machine learning works in mining and it works properly, and we find one of these 10 million ounce discoveries, it's going to be legendary what we come out of, because we have 300 kilometers of a trend go and explore with it. So it would be really substantial. And as we talk right now in this interview, our first hole's been getting drilled as we're talking, and in the next few holes we're going to see some of the AI targets or our machine learning targets. And just seeing that core for me is pure excitement. Did the computer really help that much? We've drilled plenty of gold up there, but we haven't drilled the high grade gold that we're looking for. And the computer was designed its targeting to go find 8-gram gold, as we have in our deposit up there. It was trained off of that with a 99% accuracy. So if the computer can help us find 8-gram gold in quantities, there's 11 targets. We'll drill 3 or 4 of them this summer. It would be substantial in terms of what we come out with, and not just on a remuneration part for investors, which would be its own thing on a big discovery, but the big part would be breaking the mold of mining and how mining's done, and using artificial intelligence to enhance your exploration experience.
Hey, and it sounds like amazing things are about to unfold, and I'm just curious, with the run up in gold prices, what does that do to the value of the ounces in the ground?
So it most certainly impacts them considerably, and it's a great question. I'll start with our Homestake Ridge project in British Columbia. We have 1.3 million ounces of 7.5 grams gold silver, grade, average grade. That project below $1,400 an ounce and above has doubled in value more or less. It actually sustains our entire market cap based on the value of north of $1,400 gold of what's there for ounces. So massive upgrade, and it gives you our other 6 projects for free. This big discovery in Peru is for free, Committee Bay, etc. Our company has been one of the leading performers globally as an exploration company, and we hit a good valuation, considered by some to us. We think we're incredibly cheap based on the discovery possibility in Peru and what might come out of Committee Bay. But, being a $200 million Canadian market cap company looking to go drill your big discovery, some people thought we were ahead of the market, but the commodity price improving is now not just reflecting that we're fair valued and arguably undervalued, but it's reflecting, the speculation factor that it's actually, the challenge is going to be for investors to find high quality companies that have major meaning the size or massive, discovery opportunities. As an investor myself, I don't see it across the board. And so, yeah, we're $1.65 US or $2 Canadian, but I'd argue we have some of the most or the largest upside out there to offer investors, not on one project, but on multiple projects. So I think, again, I stand that we're extremely undervalued, and it's not just backed on opinion. It's backed by the facts that have come out of our projects, particularly in Peru, because copper is a lot easier than gold. It's more homogeneous, and if you find it on surface, there's usually a great indication that it is beneath the surface. And we've seen it in historical drill holes beneath the surface as well as on surface. So when we go drill it, our surprise is not going to be that it's not there, as gold can do to you very often. It's just how much of it is there, and how rich is this, and what's this really worth. And that's the kind of thing that gives us the confidence to make the statement that at a $200 million market cap, I think we're very undervalued in this current commodity price environment. I hate to think how far that changes if we keep going up with gold, and if copper starts to perform, which is what we both expect, or what we expect as a management team to happen in the next 6 to 12 months. I think you're going to see robust commodity prices, and you're not going to see many discoveries, which is going to push to incredible valuations if we discover these big deposits.
And we should mention, it's a little remiss, the ticker symbol, it's AUG, traded on the TSX and the New York Stock Exchange. Recently, the stock hit a 52-week high, if I'm not mistaken, of $1.84 US. So that's a real good indication that it could be going further. Hey, on a personal note, Ivan, you're really been obsessed with Auryn resources for years now. How do you keep balance in your life? How do you stop yourself from being totally absorbed, overwhelmed, and effectively, approaching burnout? It's
interesting that you asked that question today. I'll say this because, this is my third company with my partners, and they take a lot out of you to survive these bear markets, to maintain your share price and continue to drive forward when you drill and you miss, right? The perseverance. I recently, and probably within the last 2 weeks, I've been hitting this kind of threshold of not being burnt out, but feeling that real strenuous strain on me, where I'm just kind of like, wow, this has been tough. And, the wind in my sails is coming from third-party validation of what we're up to, meaning other major mining companies are agreeing with what we're saying about some of our projects, specifically Sombrero. And I think once you kind of get there, it's always that big kind of euphoric kind of, oh, I made it there, take my deep breath, and that's where I'm at now. But the driver that gets me going every day, and it'll keep me going for the next 5 years if necessary, is the chance that we might be on to one of the biggest in the last 20 years in terms of a discovery. As a career move, and anyone's career in this business, to find an entire copper belt, the scale of what we're going after in Sombrero, if we find 3 or 4 of these massive discoveries in one company, that's legendary. No one's really ever done that in one company before. And to be able to have that as a reward for all of this hard work, that keeps the engine running just, perfectly smoothly. I think we have some really big surprises to the upside, some great catalysts that'll come with news out of not just our Committee Bay drilling, but out of stuff that we're working on in Peru in the next 2 months. And you will hear a different version of me, which is, it's always positive, but you will hear something much more confident and excited in September, October, as we resume pretty extensive, tours around to show people what we're up to as we get closer to drilling. And so very, very excited. And I think that's the meat for me, and the pie is the actual potential of what we might drill. The fact that the confidence is so high by us and by other parties as well. The Kool-Aid is not just being drank by us or made by us. We can actually have third parties validate that it's not spiked with vodka per se. And so, no, it's once in a lifetime what we're looking to achieve here. And as you know, Kerry, I'm a large shareholder of the company, and I've been an active buyer of the company. We design this for shareholders. Our performance is by our share price, not by the market cap or what mine we found or didn't find. If we can perform to a $20, $30, $40 share price, that's going to be the win we look for with investors, and so being very aligned with shareholders, the way we finance small financings as we're really building confidence until we get to a really good currency point, that's how we're going to treat this company. So if you're an investor, or if you're thinking of becoming one, just keep in mind that we treat this as we would as a shareholder would want it to be treated that way. And I mean that for the sake of everything we do is to make sure we monetize what we're doing at the maximum effect possible.
And that is a good thing. And your interests are totally conjoined to the shareholders, because you have so much of your own personal assets wrapped up in the company. And that's what we always look for: proven management, a management that has a stake in the company's success, in its discoveries, in its future, rather than just being paid professional management, which we see all too much of all over the markets. And that's definitely something that sets Auryn apart. So, hey, if you want more info, go over to the website, aurynresources.com. That's AURYN resources.com. Click the subscribe button there. You'll get updates on the latest discoveries. And I always look forward to getting them from you, Ivan. They're always exciting, mouthwatering, and you just wonder what's going to happen next. So any questions or comments, you can email me, kl@kerrylutz.com. Ivan, we're like, I'm getting ready to buckle my seatbelt here. This is exciting.
Thank you so much, Kerry. It's the most exciting point in 5 years for us. So it's starting now, and drills are turning, and other drills will be turning soon. It's time to go make the big discovery, and should be a really exciting 18 months ahead for us if we last that long as a company.
All right. Well, the future is always uncertain, so we'll just have to see. But I have a feeling if you're not in one place, you're going to wind up someplace else looking for the even bigger strike.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.